It's going. Okay.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. Could I get you all to move this way for me, please? If you want to take a seat, you can do that as well, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to make a couple of remarks before we have you engage this evening. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for showing up. That's the first thing about tonight. There are people in the room, and I really appreciate you showing up. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sam Sanders. I'm the city manager for Charlottesville. 5 months in the job. I'm still trying to get my feet under me and figure out some things. But I appreciate this opportunity to engage with you all tonight. We have coordinated an evening with you about the city budget. The goal is to do things a little bit differently, hopefully, than we've done it in the past, so that it feels fresh to you. But the moment that we have planned for you this evening is for you to be able to give feedback on the city budget. I'm in the process right now of working with the team to pull the budget together. It is probably the hardest exercise that I have ever engaged in my life, I must tell you. This one is hard. This one is very challenging. But we're going to get it done. And one of the steps in that process is to hear from you. We wanted to make sure we planned a moment for us to hear from the community. So I welcome you all to this budget forum. We want to make sure that you get a chance to ask questions, give feedback, and if you leave with a question, then give yourself some time to think about that, but please get that question back to us so that we can get answers to you. I want to acknowledge that there are members of the city staff. If they would just raise their hands, they're all around this room. These are all the people I made work late tonight. Thank y'all. I appreciate you. So these folks are here. They're at tables. They're going to work these tables this evening with you. The purpose of this is to allow you to engage with the various departments of the city, talk about what they're doing. You ask questions. They tell you some things about what they're doing. And where you may have a question, you can either ask that question at the table, or before you leave, we have our comms director up here who is collecting questions. Afton, waving her hand over there. She'll collect those, and we will make sure that we get a report back out to you on those questions. One of the things that we do with the Neighborhood Leaders Council that we have is we allow them to form questions, send them in to us, and then we answer those questions in writing back to them so that everyone gets a response. We will do that same kind of scenario tonight for any questions that we don't answer this evening. I just want to give a few highlights of the budget just to kind of help you understand why I'm not sleeping well right now. There's a couple other people in this room not sleeping well because we're trying to figure out how to make these numbers add up. But when we talk about what drives our budget, it's all the various things that we're trying to get done each year. And that varies. I mean, we're always doing the basics. We got to make sure we take care of sidewalks. We got to make sure that the police department, fire department have what they need for public safety. We have to plan what are we doing in social services, human services, all the normal things about putting a city budget together. But then you also have priorities that our council have identified. Our council passed their strategic plan framework in September. It has 9 strategic outcome areas and a commitment to JEDI, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So I count that as 10 priorities. I told them that was too many. They didn't want to change that. So that means I have 10 priorities that I have to work to. That means this team has to work to 10 priorities. And while it is a lot, I think we're up to the task. And one of the things that we've done is to try to tier those priorities so that people can begin to understand what does it mean to have that many priorities and how do you work that many priorities at once. So I've set up a tier 1, 2, and 3. It's not a tier of importance. It is a tier of how much money are we investing in those and how much talk, how much conversation is happening around those things. Those are the things that appear to be the hot topics: affordable housing, transportation, public safety. Right? Those are the big things that you always hear a lot about. But it doesn't mean that the others don't get the attention. It's important for us to strike a balance when it comes to doing the budget. So the goal is to figure out how do we make sure that enough attention and resources are being paid to all these different things that we need to get done. And when we try to do a lot, then sometimes hard decisions have to get made. Part of what's on my job description is you're the hard decision maker. I have to say no where I have to say no. and I accept that as a part of the responsibility. So we have collective bargaining that is brand new for the city of Charlottesville going into effect July 1st of this year. It is a very expensive proposition. It is not something that we are opposed to, but it is very expensive to make that happen. We're working through that process right now, and the goal is to be able to have 3 contracts: police, fire, and transit. Everybody wants a contract, but it's a hard and difficult process to get through. And we're at the tail end of it at this moment, and I assure you we will have contracts signed this year to go into effect July 1. In addition to that, we have historically underpaid our staff. Don't y'all clap, staff. We know that we have, and we have to fix that. And we've acknowledged that, and council made that decision 2 or 3 councils ago that it was important for us to figure that out. And as staff, we internalized that, and we started a comp class study. That comp class study was to figure out where does Charlottesville employees stand in comparison to their peers across the state. We've gotten all that information back. All the department heads have had a chance to weigh in. Our Human Resources Department has reconciled all that information, and just a couple weeks ago, they presented it to me. And after I got up off the floor, I figured out, now we gotta start figuring out how do we do this? How do we get these folks paid what they're supposed to be paid? That's a big task as well. It's very expensive to pull those 2 big things through this budget cycle together. And that's before I deal with public safety, transportation, climate, and all the other things that we're talking about in our community. So we've got to be able to do all those things. And I have a school board that has a need for a lot of things, and we have to balance their requests with the jail, the library, everybody else that are also looking to the city budget to figure out how to fit them all in. Everything is important, so I'm not sending a mixed message. Everything, I agree, is important, but we have to balance those things. So what we want to do tonight is allow you time at each of these tables with these folks. We have all of our key department areas represented in, strategic outcome areas is what we prioritize. That's what these are set up to represent. The goal would be for you to find out what they're doing and ask questions. And if there are just some burning issues in relation to the budget, if they can't answer it, I'll be walking around the room. Don't everybody rush me at the same time. I'll work the room, and I'll try to answer whatever I can as well. And as I said, Afton will be there to collect any that we don't have an answer for you on right now, because it might take us to go back and look some things up. So does anyone have a question about the flow of the night? You get what I'm saying we're gonna do? Okay, great. So, team, y'all can step back to your spaces. All right, so you can go to whichever table you want to. Just feel free to move about the room. I encourage you to visit every table. Make sure you ask questions about everything that we have on display here for you tonight. That's why it's here. And ask your questions, and let's get your questions answered. All right? Thank you all.